Hi kittens, I'm Julie Savone, psychedelic facilitator, integration expert, and your guide for this wild ride, the Inner Trip, 365 days with plant medicine. I've helped hundreds of people use plant medicine, primarily psilocybin, to heal, expand, and step into their next level. But this year, I'm taking it even deeper. For the next 365 days, I'm bringing you with me. I'll be microdosing, journeying, integrating, and exploring what it really means to live a limitless life, with plant medicine as a tool, not a crutch. So if you're ready to feel more alive, more clear, more limitless, and you're down to do it with mushrooms and a little bit of sass, you're in the right place. Let's take the inner trip. Hello, kitten. My intention today is to share with you the exact process that I took myself through when I created my vision board for 2026. When this episode comes out, it's going to be December 30th. So perfect time to get ready, get all of your vision board supplies together and to craft it in a way that's going to have a lot of heart and meaning for you, because that's what I found this year. I don't always feel super connected to the idea or process of creating a vision board, but this year I felt really, really deeply connected to it. And so I wanted to share what shifted, why it felt so good. And if you're watching this, you know that I usually have my Grandpa Joe sweater on. I always wear the same sweater when I record this podcast. And today was one of those days when I was like, done is better than perfect. I was just not feeling it today. And we hear a lot about this phrase, like, fuck your feelings, stick to the plan. And in theory, that's a really good sort of like lens to wear through life, because sometimes we don't like feel into it. We don't feel like we want to do it, but our feelings in that sense are not something that we should listen to. And I know hearing me say that, you might be thinking, Julie, this seems to go against like everything that you've said. And so I was rolling this idea around in my head, and I want to come on here and talk about it with you, because I really want to flesh out this concept where sometimes you don't feel like it. For instance, I have not really felt like doing a lot of things that I know I get to do today. I don't really feel like going to the gym later, right? And that is different than a sense of pain. And here's where I think the distinction lies. So emotional pain is felt in our body like physical pain. So when you go through a really tough breakup and you feel like, I feel like I could die, right? And it sounds dramatic, and if someone's not in it, they can't really get it, but you are experiencing true emotional pain as a physical sensation. Your emotional pain is manifesting in our body. Like, our pain receptors are literally being activated when we say something like that. So it's true. Like, grief, loss, hurt, and burnout is being processed as emotional pain. So there are times when like it feels painful to do something, right? When we know like we cannot be in it from an energetic standpoint, from giving our best, from a place of not having the capacity to do so without pushing us into burnout. And so again, this phrase can be useful. Fuck your feelings, stick to the plan. In a situation where it truly is as simple as like, I don't know that I really want to do it, or I don't have my best energy for it. Not even your best energy, right? But it's like, I would just rather not. I would rather not do it. I feel like I would rather just stay at home and be cozy on the couch and like read a book or watch some trashy reality television, right? But there's not a deeper emotional pain that is happening for me that is telling me like now is not the right time. And I think this is where the discernment and the subtleties really matter, because if I was in a period of like true burnout, of like not having the capacity, I would not have showed up to record this podcast, because I knew you also wouldn't be getting my best, right? I would not go to the gym because I know that would not be the thing for me at that time in order to shift my state. Right? And I think that's what we're not taught to do. We're taught to like follow these blanket statements, right? Like, fuck your feelings, stick to the plan. We're not taught to have discernment within ourselves to figure out like, what do we actually need in this moment? And so we hear a lot of platitudes, and we hear a lot of like, you need to do this, you have to do this, you should be doing this. But what we're teaching people to do is essentially be like action forward and focused little robots instead of intelligent creatures. And so I want you to go, and there's a link in the show notes. I want you to go download my 90-day game plan before you get started with your vision board, because that is what this process is really about. It's about figuring out and fine-tuning your listening to yourself versus feeling like, oh, I have to do this because someone else said it. And we're not like teaching people self-leadership and self-trust and like being our own captain. What we're teaching people is that they have to outsource their power and look to someone else who like knows better or has the plan, and we're reinforcing ideas of saviorism and like hierarchy of processes. And that's really what we also get taught in school in this country, right? At least in public school. Well, actually, I went to public and Catholic school, but we're taught like, okay, follow these steps and then you get the answer. And that's not how adulthood works. That's definitely not how entrepreneurship works. There are a million ways to get to a destination. And it's really important that you find a way that is sustainable for you, because if you continually tell yourself, fuck the feelings, follow the plan, you are going to create a really deep sense of burnout, of resentment, and you're just not going to be able to enjoy whatever it is you built. So the 90-day game plan, again, the link is in my bio, is designed to help you get clear on like, what are your true goals? Because I know I shared at the very beginning of this podcast, like episode 2 or 3, that I had experienced a deep sense of like just dread and discomfort in my business that I had not experienced literally since I was a lawyer. And when I went through that process, I really stopped and like gave my whole life a look. And it's interesting because I integrate like journeys and I integrate microdosing products, but I hadn't really like given myself a full life integration, a full life review in a while. And so I had veered very far off the path. And that is what prompted me to create the 90-day game plan, was to think, oh gosh, if I had like been continuously checking in with myself every 90 days, aka like every quarter, I would have seen this pattern a lot sooner. But because I had just kind of been like full steam ahead, like listening to these people who like clearly do know a lot, right? Clearly do know a lot, but outsourcing all of my power to them in different coaches, different programs, right? And it created a deep sense of dissatisfaction in my life, because I was moving toward goals that weren't things that truly had any heart or meaning for me. They were things that I like heard from other people, or that should be the goalpost. But I was also doing it in a way that like worked for them and felt good for them, but didn't necessarily feel good to me. And I also just want to like throw this out there, that you see people who have certain things and you think you want the thing, but if you knew what it cost them to get the thing, you might not want it. So I know people who have sacrificed personal relationships. I know people who have sacrificed their health. I know people who have really made a muck of their life overall, except for these like goals or things they've achieved in business, right? So just be really careful. Like, you might think you want the thing, but you don't actually want what it's going to cost you to get there. Okay. So that's what I did with this 90-day game plan. It was meant to really look at, okay, not only what do I want, and what do I want that has true heart and meaning for me, that means something to me and that comes from an internal desire, not an external expectation or imposition, and how do I want to get there? Because there are a million ways to get to your destination, and how can I do it in a way that's in congruence and in alignment with my values? Because I think when it comes to things like values, people always say, oh, like, I'll do that then, right? The phrase that we hear so often is, I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's like, well, you're going to be dead a lot sooner if you don't sleep. We all know now how toxic and terrible that phrase is as we continue to learn more and more about sleep. As the research comes out, it's like, that is the fundamental thing. If you're not getting sleep, like, the rest of your health is just being built on a shaky foundation. So if you don't take time to align your life with your values now, I guarantee you're not going to like do it at any imaginary then or when I reach blah blah blah, because we continually move the goalpost on ourselves, right? It's this concept of like the gap versus the gain. We always think like we want the thing at the end, we're chasing the thing, but even when we get there, it's a constant next thing, a next level, a new goal to hit. So getting really, really clear on what do we want and how do we want to get there. And I made sure that I took myself through the 90-day game plan long before I ever sat down to do my vision board, so that it could really like resonate with me, and I could make sure that I was building that vision board from a place of like true internal desire. So that was something I did like days before I did the vision board. So I also gave myself some space to breathe and let it basically marinate. Let it like really feel good, and feel grounded, because so often we're just trying to like get to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and we're not giving ourselves any space to breathe. And for anyone who cooks or grills and like, is getting the fillet on the grill, that you have to let the steak breathe a little bit before you move to the next step. So give yourself some space. And if you're like, I don't have space, it's, I need to make my vision board now. Okay, well then do the game plan, but take a walk around the block. Take a break, go do something else, eat a meal, and then come back to it so that it can kind of land a little bit, because feeling rushed is not going to support this process. And even if you can only spend a total of 30 minutes on the process, I guarantee you not rushing it will make it feel better. And that's kind of where I'd like to segue into the day of making my vision board, because I gave myself a lot of space. So a few hours before I sat down to do this process, I took myself to the sauna and the cold plunge, my recovery center. And so when I was in the sauna, I really let myself visualize what are the things that I desire and what is it going to feel like when I have them. And then using the cold plunge, which, it can be really uncomfortable at first, but it also produces feelings of euphoria as you like breathe and sit, and your body adjusts and allows like all those good endorphins and stuff to fuel and to make their way into your blood. So I use that euphoric high to then anchor in to the feeling, the emotional feeling of the vision board, of everything that I wanted, right? So then I came back to my house and I set up my space, meaning like I smudged my space. I set up a crystal like half circle. I lit some incense. I pulled some cards from one of my decks. I did all these things that are really intentional and have meaning for me. So this could look however you want it to look. Like if you're not into the incense or the crystals or the cards, that's fine. Journal. Maybe read a page of a book that has a lot of meaning for you. It doesn't matter what the thing is, as long as you're doing things that have heart and meaning for you. And that's what I really want to come back to time and time again in this process. Like, it's not about what I do, it's about the intention behind it. So it doesn't matter if you don't like the same things I do, as long as you use tools that have the same intention. So beautiful. I sat down, I did all of that, and I also did a debriefing. I thought about like, what are the big themes in life? So themes can look like business, finance, spirituality, relationships, community, romantic relationships, anything that was like big areas of focus in your life. And I thought about kind of like the peach in the pit, right? Like, what is something that I would have liked to have more of? What is something that was a big win? What is something that felt really bad about it? What is something that was like really stuck out to me about it? Like, was just kind of a core memory about that area, right? What is something that I can notice about that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise noticed had I not sat down to look at it? So going over my big areas of my life in 2025 and perusing them in that way was also something I did leading up to the vision board process. So when I got into the vision board itself and I was thinking about, the last year, I took myself just through like a simple meditation just to quiet my mind, right? Reconnecting with my breath, reconnecting with my body, just creating some softness and like light awareness. And then I let myself feel what words and what areas of importance, what values were coming up for me, that felt really like resonant. So I thought of them spontaneously. Another option for you is like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anything's going to come up if I sit down there and meditate. Okay, cool. So just like Google a list of values, which is another part of the 90-day game plan, finding your values. But you can just Google a list of values and have it up and ready on your screen and take some time and get into a meditative state. Calm down your mind, reconnect with your body and your breath, and then look at the list, scroll through the list and see what like pops out to you, right? Like maybe maybe connection will pop out to you. Maybe intuition will pop out to you. Maybe peace will pop out to you. But whatever's true, that's cool. Write them down. And then, one thing that I think is really fun to do at this point is to start a playlist that feels energizing, a playlist that is going to like get you into those good feels, whatever that music is for you, having that going in the background. And then it's really easy in Canva or like Google. You can make a Google slideshow. You can have this on an actual piece of paper, but I like to make it in Canva and just set the dimensions to be like a computer background. And then I go on Pinterest. I go on Cosmos, which is a great website, kind of like Pinterest. You can create different projects and stuff. And I just find images that stick out to me. So some of my images this year were around things that I know I want, like a specific car and the color that I wanted it. There was like a picture of a house in the mountains. I would love to have a house in the mountains and one on the beach. There were things that like had particular like meaning to me. And then I found images that more represented the concepts, right? That more represented like living my most limitless life and seeing how good it can get and dreaming big. And some felt really specific and some felt more emotionally tied. But I just let myself search for about 15-20 minutes, and then I put them on the board. I arranged them on the board. I used colors and words that stuck out to me. And when I felt complete with that, I also resized it and made it into a phone background. So not only can I make it as my phone background, I can also put it as my computer background and like kind of see it wherever I am. And I like really gave myself the permission to just, do it. I said at the top of the podcast, but sometimes like done is better than perfect. And I think a vision board can be one of those things that we perseverate over and it never actually goes anywhere. And in the vein of like that idea that sometimes it never actually goes anywhere, I also encourage you to create a totem to represent the vision board itself. So I picked this stone in particular, and I was like, okay, this stone is going to remind me of my vision board, and I'm going to put it down on my desk because at the end of the day, a vision board is just a tool, and a tool is only useful if you use it. And so many people like take the time to make the vision board now, and then they get to, next December and think, oh yeah, what about that vision board? And sometimes there are those really cool instances where people are like, oh yeah, that happened and that happened and that happened. And you're more likely to bring the thing to life when you are reminding yourself of it, when it's present. I'm not saying sit there and like stare at your phone screen and just be like, okay, yes, I need that thing, I need that thing, I need that thing. But simply having it around is putting it in your conscious awareness. So you don't need to be fixated on it. And a little note on fixation. When I was home and I was in my, childhood bedroom, I found this list of values that I made almost 6 years ago, I think. Yeah, 6 years ago. Like, what are my values? What are the things that matter most to me, right? How do I want to live my life? This like work with values that I talk about isn't something that's new to me. It's been like the foundation of my work for the entire time. And so the values that I had listed down were joy, infinite, win-win, something else, and committed. And so I was sitting down thinking about all of those, right? And I was like, well, there's still values like win-win and joy will always be my top two values. Infinite obviously is still a theme for me. Like being infinite is the focus of this podcast. I, again, admittedly forget the other one. Whoops. But when I thought about it, committed was something I just was. Like, I did not have to think about committed. I think about joy, right? Like, I think about creating joy, prioritizing joy, living joyfully. Like, that is a nudge. We talk about my program Unbreakable. It's built around this Nobel Prize winning economic theory, nudge theory, which says that if something is in your environment telling you to do something, you're more likely to follow through with it. Like I nudge myself toward joy all the time. But committed, it just became who I am. Like I am committed. If I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. If I want to do something, I will do it. Like, committed is just a way of being for me, and it's not something I have to think about consciously. And when I wrote down last year, again, I told you guys, I don't feel very connected to a vision board process a lot of the time. I'm just like, nah, no thanks. It doesn't have a lot of heart or meaning for me. It had more heart and meaning for me this year because I created the 90-day game plan. And I did that first, and I was like, okay, well, now I actually feel excited about my goals because I know that they're my goals, and I know that I want to get there, and I'm going to get there in a way that feels good for me. But last year, I just wrote like a list of things that would be really cool when they happen in 2025. And so I have this whole list, and on the list, one of the things was be outside every single day. Not something that I was like super thinking about all the time, right? I had written down this big trip to Asia, which didn't happen. It's going to happen in April of this year. I had written down like go to Alaska and spread my grandpa's ashes, which didn't happen. But like things that like they were things I would think about quite often, like, oh, can I make this fit here? Can I make it happen? I never really thought about like I'm going to be outside every single day of the year, but guess what has happened? I have been outside every single day of the year, and I think a big part of it too is I adopted a dog in June, but it's not like I adopted this dog thinking like this is going to help me further my goal of being outside every single day, right? That was not a thought that went through my head. And what I realized, whether it be like through this example of being committed or being outside every day, I didn't have any strong emotional connection to either of those in the sense of like a fear or a judgment that I wasn't going to do it. It was basically like I could set it and forget it, which in manifesting is like the kind of the secret sauce, being able to set it and forget it. But that only really works when we can lack the emotional attachment we have of like maybe it doesn't happen. Like I was like I'm going to be committed, and then I just trusted that I would be committed, and I never once like doubted myself or thought, "Oh, maybe I won't be committed." And so I showed up and I was freaking committed. I wrote down I'm going to be outside every day. There wasn't a part of me that was doubting that either, right? I think that this is what it really is. It's like there's a part of you that doubts something, and so you feel the need to remind yourself of it. And it actually is the thing that's stopping it from happening or from happening naturally, right? Like I would say I'm a very joyful person, although sometimes I do get to be reminded of how important joy is for me and how much that gets to be the guidepost for how I live my life. And when I really take a step back and do some honest discernment in this moment, part of that may be because I have subscribed to some programming around like it's not realistic to feel that joy all the time. It's not safe. That's like not how life quote unquote should work, right? So I'm seeing some deeper programming from like society around joy, whereas I don't have any of that around committed. Committed just it feels neutral. It feels like when I was learning how to do sales calls, my instructor, shout out to Ashley, said when you say the price, it should be as neutral as like pass the salt. Like, oh yeah, working together is X amount of dollars, pass the salt. It has like no emotional charge. So when I think about this committed, right, it was like, no, I'm just going to be committed. It was a decision that I have no stories or programming around. Versus like even this idea of like, okay, I wrote down I'm going to go to Asia, right? Well, that didn't happen because I also have a lot of stories that I'm like, oh my God, can I take that much time off in my business? This is a lot of planning. Like who's going to watch my cats and now my dog? There's all these stories that accompany it that hold you back from making it happen easily because you can make something happen, but it can be hard. So notice which stories are causing doubt or friction about your ability to make something happen and then prove them wrong, because it is the things that we have no doubt or friction around that come to us. Like being outside every day, like being committed. I just was. There was like nothing to overcome. So for every desire that you have that has this point of friction, that has a doubt attached to it, or a fear that says I can't, whatever, or it's going to be hard to, whatever the story is, if there's a story, disprove the story. Take some time now. Or it's going to be something that you can obviously create, but it's just going to feel a little stickier. It's going to feel a little heavier. And I'm really happy I'm identifying this now for myself around joy, because joy gets to feel light and it gets to feel effortless. And although sometimes it does, because I do feel like that is a big part of my way of being, I still obviously have stories and programming to shed around joy. And that it can be a beautiful guidepost, and that it gets to be everyone's reality, especially mine. So, kittens, I set the stage for you. Go download that 90-day game plan. It is in the show notes. It's totally free. It's a 17-page workbook. It's going to take you through every step of debriefing your last year and getting clear on what you really want, not what someone else wants for you. It'll help you figure out not only what you want, but how to break it down into a 90-day increment, because ultimately that's as far as like science tells us we can plan in the future. It's going to help you really get really clear on your values, how you can start living by your values, and how you can incorporate your values with your goals to make them both happen at the same time. How to microdose with all of that. So once you do all of that, and you look at like the different areas of your life, how all of that stuff felt, you create some intentional time and space to get yourself in a really good vibration. I also want you to, prep your space, be intentional, whatever that means for you. If it is saging your house or getting the crystals out, looking at the images and what you want to bring to life after you've connected with what has like the most heart and value for you. Maybe you got super clear on that in the game plan. You didn't have to do a little meditation where you then discern like what was going to be the focal point for you. So setting a timer for that, making the vision board itself on Canva, in a Google slide, looking at images from Pinterest, from Cosmos, from wherever, making a physical one, but making sure you put it up somewhere that you are going to see it. And then taking some time afterward that says like, to really look at what are the friction points between you and your desires and how can you disprove them? Because if you have friction, it's going to be way harder to get there versus things you have no friction around, which just happen effortlessly. So that is a really condensed version of the process that I took myself through. And I'm so obsessed with my vision board. It feels so good. Like I said, I hadn't made one in a couple years. This one feels exciting. And make sure that you do download that game plan. That is my integration for you. If you do nothing else and you just do the game plan, you don't even need the vision board. The vision board is icing on the cake. Take some time, quickly do that game plan, and then you can send it to me for a free audit. I would love to audit it to make sure that you have the capacity, the nervous system regulation to hold it. And if you have any, if you get stuck anywhere, I'm happy to workshop with you. So that is the integration. Make sure you go download that. And I'll see you next year, kittens. Oh my gosh, next year, 2026. All right, love you. Be safe. That's the end of today's trip. But remember, the real magic has always been inside of you. If this episode landed, send it to a friend who's ready to step into their next level. And make sure you're following the show so you never miss a dose. I'll be back again soon with another day on the path to your most limitless life. And until then, trust yourself, follow your intuition, and keep asking, how good can it get?